So I just left Valissima, and tonight, to be honest, tonight was kind of a bust. There was not a lot of people there. I think we arrived too late. We got there like 9:15 or something. And last weekend, I would have been like fine. It was still popping at that time for another hour or so. And it felt like it would have been the time to arrive there. But this weekend, it was a little bit too late. You could tell the dance floor had already cleared out. Or maybe the day never even picked up, the night never even picked up. But, should have probably gotten there like 8 o'clock, maybe even 7. But I don't really like waiting around for the party to start. You become seen, you become like a known factor, So 9 o'clock, something like that. 8 o'clock. So when Tim comes next weekend, I guess that's going to be the plan, at least for Sunday. People are going to Carpe Diem, and I strongly considered it. I considered messaging Brian and be like, hey, bro, you want to go out tonight? But, you got to understand the value of your time, right? That's the MO right now. That's the motive. So decided I'm going to move different. I mean, that's not moving different. That's how I am, But the main thing is keeping in mind value of time. Hey, 4:45. I woke up like 3:30. For some reason, I went to sleep at midnight and I woke up 3.5 hours later. Just no good reason, but my body was like, it's time. So I was like, fuck it, let's get it, So I already meditated this morning for an hour, doing some CSS. I really want to hit that, get the 3rd module done by Thursday. I think it's a very doable goal. And then, so I'll do this for like 2 hours. If I'm sleepy, if I get sleepy again, I'll fall back asleep. I'll go to bed. If not, I'll hit the gym. I haven't eaten in 30 hours-ish, 28 hours at this point. And it's fine, actually. But the only thing is, in terms of lifting, obviously, I do feel like I could do a pretty strong workout. I don't feel like, low energy or low power right now. But then I would definitely have to get food pretty much very soon after. So that's really the only concern. So for that reason, I may end up going lifting a little bit later in the day. Especially if I get sleepy again, and I'll just sleep through till like 9 a.m. Get ready for the day. Wake up at 9, get ready for the day, go to WeWork, and then lift in the evening. Other than that, things are pretty good. I really love having the space to work. It's so nice. And I love having the monitor back. So yeah, that's it. So this morning's off to a bit of a slow start, you could say. I ended up sleeping in till 9:30, woke up, got ready for the day, did a little bit of research online, I guess. There's this company called Chaincode Labs, and they essentially like sponsor development, open source development, Bitcoin and Lightning crypto systems. So I was sort of looking at one of the programs that they have, because they have essentially an incubator for funneling devs into contributing to Bitcoin Core. And I think, like, I don't know, in terms of branding, right? If I could say I have Coinbase on my resume and I have Bitcoin Core dev, not core dev, but a dev in Bitcoin Core, that's a lot of credibility and authority. And beyond that, I think I get to skip a lot of the like, oh, do this take home or do this interview process or whatever. Like, dude, I contribute to Bitcoin Core. You can look on GitHub and see if you want to know whether or not I can write code. And, that's kind of fire. So I was considering if that's a good line of attack or path of attack in terms of, again, the credibility thing, the specialty, the expertise and authority, right? So, because as I've said, I still feel my positioning statement is a bit, I don't know if I saw on the vlog, but I was talking to someone about this. is a bit, I was talking to Kian about this on Saturday, wide still, because fintech is still fairly large, and I'm really more interested in like platforms. So like exchanges, payment processors, uh, hosted wallets, that sort of thing. And it doesn't have to be crypto specific, not necessarily, but again, just more along those lines. I guess deep tech. And so having this as a, let's say, path, like I finished the CSS course, or whichever modules are the most relevant, which at this point, to be honest, none of them are particularly relevant. I just have chosen that, I want to finish these 4 modules altogether, right? The 3 I've already done, and then the 3rd module that I said I want to get done by Thursday. Just because they are, even though they're not necessarily immediately relevant, they have at least given me a mental model of how CSS works that is useful, and I'm sure will continue to be useful. And after that, my thinking was to do Josh Como's React course, because if I do that, then that sort of gives me like, a full stack. So I already know the basics of React. It's the same way I knew the basics of CSS. React maybe a bit more. React is more familiar from a back-end engineer perspective, at least, compared to style sheets and layout management and some of the implicit rules in CSS. React as a whole is just a lot more explicit. But my thinking was, if I get some level of knowledge and expertise there, now I can like crank out MVPs, like, or prototypes, or simple products, front end, back end, deploy everything. So that was one path. The other path was sort of go down the AWS best managed practices, Google SRE path. And then the last path would be sort of go down the Bitcoin core dev path. And again, this would all be fodder. This would all be used to feed the newsletter and marketing efforts, because I would just be, writing about what I'm learning as I'm going along. They all seem interesting. They all seem interesting in their own way. React, CSS/React, the front end stuff, really would just make me a more holistic developer. I'm not really sure how much leverage it would give me necessarily. It would allow me to do more, subcontractor work. It would also allow me potentially to be a better back-end dev. I have a better understanding of what's going on the front end, and just to be able to like rapidly iterate, not need to wait on a front-end dev for certain, again, if this is, I guess, if I was working full-time inside of a team, or if I was consulting or if I was contracting inside of a team where I'm in a back-end role, right, not need to wait for a front-end engineer to make some changes in order for me to be able to see how things work. So there's that benefit. I think if I was to end back up in some sort of a role, I'd just be able to pick up React relatively quickly. Or if I was to end, I don't want to like ever really go back to full-time employment like that. But if I was to end up in some sort of, again, embedded position, writing code, the SRE and SRE book in AWS, well-managed practices, I think that would just be very useful for me in terms of being able to speak confidently about the value offering, right? Because again, like, I'm not selling Bitcoin development. I'm not selling crypto development. I'm selling de-risking engineering processes. And so in terms of actual relevant expertise, that would be high up there. I can't lie. That would be very high up there. And then, yeah, in terms of selling, in terms of brand, in terms of recognition, in terms of market positioning, I don't know if you can beat, Bitcoin core developer as a title. And I think especially if I get 1, 2, 3 medium-sized projects, a bigger project going on, and I can get some case studies for that. But that really is like a longer term endeavor. This is at least 9 to 12 months of work, I would assume, right? So right now it's beginning of October, 3 months before the deadline for this program. Then the program starts mid-January. That would also affect my ability to travel to Brazil. but it starts mid-January, and then from January, I believe it's 3 months. So then to mid-August, to mid-April rather, and then it's not like, oh, you come out and you're just like all of a sudden like a trusted member of the Bitcoin Core Dev. I think it's like a funnel into the ecosystem. So maybe they introduce you to people, they give you context, you have an understanding of projects you can work on, right? And then that's going to be another 1-2 years really of like, I mean, it's an ongoing thing, you know. So I will in some capacity be writing core code for like Bitcoin Core for a few years, which I think could be very interesting. Especially like if I set up the consultancy in such a way where like, look, either I'm working on client work and I have money coming in, or if I'm not, then I'm like pushing these things forward, building up my visibility. And I really like that idea too. So I guess more than anything, again, they all have their benefits, because I think learning React and be able to make full front-end apps would also be cool. You know, that's one thing that I've never really done in my career, and one thing that I always find very interesting. And what I liked so much about like building the agency website, the V1, when I saw Typecode and I was so inspired, the V1 and then the latest one is just like having a visual output and having some deeper layer of interactivity, I think would also be cool. Of course, I want to do it all, but we just have to be realistic in terms of timing and prioritization. So it's possible there's a middle ground, right? Like time boxing, this is what I'm already doing. I'm time boxing the CSS course. The React course, I don't know if I need to do it right now. I think React I can just sort of pick up as I go along if I'm in a situation where I need it, but it doesn't seem immediately relevant. And then AWS well-managed practices and the SRE book or whatever. Again, I don't have to read the entirety of those books. I can go through and read like, like sort of like this like 80-20 thing, right? What are like the most important parts? It's just probably gonna be the first 5 chapters or whatever portion, and then the like other parts of the book that I'm just like, oh, this seems very interesting, let me read this. So don't have to read the full thing. And in theory, that could be my month of October primarily. And then once I'm done with the CSS course, I start getting set up with Bitcoin Core. So what would that mean? That would mean downloading, cloning the repo to my local machine. I probably have to buy an external hard drive in order to like backfill, in order to download like the transaction history or the blockchain history. Start running a Bitcoin node locally, start playing around with it, hop on the various channels, although that's like, I'm not great at like consuming information that way, like Discord or Slack or whatever it may be, but just sort of hop on and I guess like start to see the ecosystem. I could download or buy and reread either Mastering Bitcoin, reread that, or I could read Programming Bitcoin. And maybe I would aim for November with those efforts, reading those books, but spend the next few weeks just getting comfortable with the code, with C++, poking around. And I don't know, I think that seems doable. That seems very doable, and that will like keep me busy more or less like 40 hours a week. So I think that's a good plan. Let's see. I just stepped out. I'm gonna go get some breakfast. I was waiting for some like technicians to show up in the apartment, and they never did, so fuck them. Gonna get some steak and potatoes. And again, I always say it every day, but it's such a beautiful morning here. And I saw like some beautiful girl walking by, and I just had this like flashback to this feeling I used to have in 2022. It was every day in Barcelona is just like a blank slate, there's an infinite amount of opportunities in more ways than one going on, things to do, places to be, people to meet. So just some minor food for thought. The other thought I've been trying to decide on is I waited a bit last minute to figure this out, but apparently Bitcoin Europe, Bitcoin Amsterdam is Wednesday and Thursday. And I'm considering if I should go or not. I think there's almost no downside to going apart from the just cost, since it's all going to be last minute. But in theory, I can meet my next client there, right? I mean, in fact, there's almost certainly going to be American companies there. So it's probably going to cost me 1 to 1.5K all in, like I think about last minute ticket, hotel, and then train or flights, probably flights. So let's say 1.5, let's even say 2K all in, that being said, I'm spending more than that for my birthday, and my birthday, as much as I'm looking forward to it, is not going to generate me ROI and has pretty much zero opportunity to generate me ROI. So looking at it in those terms, maybe I should go. I just don't really want to do this like last minute jerk. If I knew about it 2 weeks ago and I'd planned it out, I definitely would have been like, yeah, this is the move. Most likely I'll end up going. I'm also carrying a copy of I hope that's Alan Weiss's $1 Million Consulting. And I think after reading Philip Morgan's book, because I had read this a year and a ago, and I just thought he was like full of shit because I didn't directly see how it applied to tech. But after reading Philip Morgan's book and after talking to Cliff's friend, I think his name was Todd or Dylan, it's a lot more straightforward now. So at least the table of contents makes a lot more sense. So I'm gonna have some food, read through this, and come back home and I guess get started with the day. I don't even really know. I should have maybe just taken my stuff and just go to the WeWork. In fact, I'm gonna go back, get my stuff, and go to the WeWork because I'm not gonna wait for these guys. Breaking the 36-hour fast. Some good ass steak and potatoes. Alright, I stepped out. I'm gonna get some food. I'm not sure if I want to go to Honest Greens or Pasta Macchina, whatever, Macchina Pasta. But I am hungry, yeah. So, finally figured out what to write for the newsletter. I just wrote part 2 on the Dan Bilzerian post of our reliability, building reliable software. Started reading through 2 of the Google books, not really reading, peruse the SRE book and then another book they have on building secure and reliable systems. Both seem like very applicable, in a gold mine. So I think I'm probably just going to go down that path, at least in the near future, instead of the Bitcoin core dev path. And also partially because I read a bit more of Alan Weiss's book and, talked about process versus context, right? And so really what I'm selling is like not Bitcoin expertise, it's essentially SRE/DevOps with a heavy focus on dev and targeted at fintech firms. So doesn't necessarily make sense for me to do the Bitcoin thing, even though it would be cool. And I think it's been a dream I've had for several years. But maybe it's more of a dream that I like to make a dream, that I like to keep a dream, rather than something I want to put in the work for. Because it's gonna be quite involved, Anyway, now I'm gonna get food. Bought my tickets for Amsterdam. Booked everything. I'm flying out tomorrow at I think 3 o'clock. Low-key, there's a part of me that I'm working, because the last time I went to Amsterdam, I walked through the red light district and I almost, So there was a part of me that I was like, is this really a good idea? Maybe I should, like, because I booked a private hotel, and I was like, maybe I should book in a hostel or something. But I just thought about it. I don't want to be going to a conference and then going to a hostel. And then if I have my own place, at least I have the opportunity to, go out at night and meet someone potentially. So yeah. Also, I think I'm not sure what policy I'll hold towards cold approach while I'm there, since I'll be there for 3 days. It's not necessarily distracting for me building like the way it would be here. Essentially, I'm there for the conference. Hopefully I meet some prospects, some good clients. That's another thing actually I have to figure out, how to get my ROI for this, because I'm going to be spending about 2,500 euros minimum. So thoughts. I just left the office. I am so zonked out. I feel not at all present, very in my head. Like, this is what always happens, too much code. Enter the analytical brain space. So anyway, right now I'm going to go to Muji, see if they got anything for the apartment. I wanted to get like a dehumidifier with that I can put essential oils in. And after that I'm going home. Gym. Definitely need to gym. If I have enough time, the jiu-jitsu gym closes at 9, so if I have enough time I'll swing by there with my credit card to pay off my membership. And then also laundry for the flight, for the trip.